Hey guys, how's it going? Here we are with the Spell School Mage. I just want to point out this card here, as it used to be in the old Spell School Mage deck. We can no longer use it because its Lynch King went to wild. So this is, just to take note of. Recast each spell that you've cast this game that didn't start in your deck. So before, when we were discovering the spells, it didn't really matter cost at all. It was just, every spell that didn't start in our deck. With the new Spell School Mage, it's a little different. So now we have this Galactic Projection Orb, which let me get that up here. So now it recasts a random spell of each cost that you've cast this game. Take note of the random and then the cost. So it's all about the cost of the spells and no longer if they started in your deck or not. And then it's random. So if we cast this one, the Discovery of Magic, and the Flame Geyser, they're both one cost and you don't know what you're going to get. And then same with the Soulfreeze. So it's going to cast one of them three, unfortunately. So it's a little random, but it kind of suits the deck because honestly, this whole deck is pretty random. I've had it take some crazy turns that I didn't even know were possible. This Yogg in the box is, let's just say it's crazy. I've I've really turned the tables with it on the enemy and on myself. There was one time I cast the Yogg in the box and it literally ate the rest of my deck. I had 0 cards left. And I had like 5 turns left. So I had like 7 cards in my hand, if that, with 5 turns to try to, and it was just a mess. It didn't go well, but I guess that's part of the randomness of this deck, which kind of makes it fun because, you don't want to play the same way every single time. That's kind of why we swap up characters too, but this one can be a little forgiving with each game is honestly a little different. There are a couple key things that you want to try to do right off the bat, and that is to get your keyboard. If you can get this equipped on turn 2 and in your hand, on the draw, that's amazing. And then same with this one here, Spot the Difference. If you could cast this on turn 4 with the Cosmic Keyboard already equipped, then you're really ahead of the game and you're doing great because you've got 2 3-cost minions, 4 armor, or no, that's not the armor generating one, I'm sorry, but another 4-cost minion. So you'll have 3 minions on that, and then, that's ideal for turn 4. So if you can get that, then you're really going to be ahead, and it's going to help you a lot because, they're going to be spending cards just to get rid of those 3 minions. And you also got another one, you could do it again. But it's very, very random. A couple things I will say about the deck itself is you have a card here, this one, Manufacturing Error. If you could use this on turn 6 and happen to draw one of these guys, any of them, then it could really turn the tables on turn 7. This one, not such a big deal, except for that you could also get off maybe another smaller spell. But really, if you could get the Yogg in the box, the Sunset Volley, you probably don't want this yet on turn 7, but if it's in your hand for cheaper, then that's always a bonus. Because as you see, the 3 cards you get are going to cost 3 less. So it's pretty amazing if you can draw one of these underneath that card. Of course, half the time you draw cards up here that you don't need, but most of the time it's just super random. So you want to pay attention to your spell costs when you're discovering spells here, discovering spells here. Now, the one thing you do want to take note of is when you discover the spell, look at its cost there. Do not count on its reduced cost, because for some reason this the projection orb doesn't work off the reduced cost. It works off what the spell originally cost. So saying that, with hidden object, when you discover a secret, they're all 3-cost secrets. And that's going to be your only 3-cost, unless you happen to discover another 3-cost spell. So you're almost guaranteed to recast that secret for, you know, and the cost is 3. Although it says it's going to set it to 1, I've noticed when I cast this, it casts that secret as a 3-cost. So that's just something to keep in mind. The new cards here, you get the Primordial Glyph, and that's one of your purples. So, you know, that's a little more expensive on the cards. But Spot the Difference was another new one, but it's a common, so it's cheap. Manufacturing Error was another new one that's, you know, a rare, but relatively cheap. So this deck is actually very simple to build. Yogg in the box is, you know, a little more expensive too. And then that one. So I think I only had to craft like 4 or 5 cards for this deck. All the rest were from previous seasons. As for stars, you only got to craft the Projection Orb, because you should already have this from, I want to say that was 2 seasons ago. But most of this was already in my decks. The only other thing with this vortex here, and this is where you want to kind of pay attention to, like, say when you discover here, you want to pick, like, say a frost spell, or actually probably not frost because you got one here and you got a fire. So you're going to want to pick like a shadow spell, or, you know, an earth spell, something different than what you've already cast, in which this is going to try to give you something different than what you've already cast, as it's supposed to. And that way, when you do your elemental inspiration, it'll be more than one. I've had it like 6 vortex one time. So there's definitely huge possibilities. And same with the Yogg in the box. You know, it's a shadow spell, and it gets insane. At the end game, this deck turns super powerful. It's just a matter of making it there. You know, you're kind of defenseless for a little while, so you gotta freeze their enemies. And that's why Cosmic Keyboard with the Spot the Difference is so huge, because we don't have any minions in this deck, but we will be summoning lots of minions. So it's a very interesting deck. It can be very random. You just kind of play what they give you, and with a game like this where they just feed you cards at random, then it's kind of nice. And I know it's supposed to be shuffled or whatever, but it's the RNG where really there's not a bad card. About the only way that this can be a bad draw is when you keep getting all the high costs in the early game. I've had it happen, unfortunately. That's part of the game. But I think the big key thing is getting that keyboard equipped with Spot the Difference, get some minions going, and hopefully you can get like star power for defensive. That's very strong. The way that works is it does 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. So, and it's going to go to a random minion each time. So if they've only got 2 minions up and, you know, one of them's real big, there's a good chance that that's going to drop it. So that's a very good defensive. Another discovering spells, more discovery. You want to make sure, or try to, use this when you only have 2 mana left, because if you use it on the finale, then it returns to your hand. And the finale is, it's going to be the last of your mana that you cast this. So there are ways where you can get this, you know, like there's spells to reduce the cost of spells in your hands. I've had that happen where I've had this card free before, so I got to use it at the end of every turn when I was out of mana. And it'll return to your hand each time. The only other issue that I've had with this deck sometimes is when you get another guy that doesn't really have many minions, say like a warrior that's kind of like just building armor or whatever, you can get a lot of cards in your hands. Especially if you're drawing a bunch of high cards in the early, you know, because say you're on turn 2 and you use this, you didn't reduce any cards in your hands, unfortunately. And it keeps happening for a little while sometimes. So you just got to be mindful of the cards in your hands. Make sure you don't get above 10, or else you start burning cards, and next thing you know, you've burned a key card, like this, for example. But it's very random. I've won games that I don't even know how, because of, you know, Yogg in the box. Like I said, that this card's really a game changer on the random. But it's a very fun deck, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I do. And I don't think, like I said, there's much that you got to worry about with the crafting.